Kane is in the building.
Hello, welcome to History Nation. I'm your host, John Jones, with co-host Brian Bird.
Whoa. Today's topic is a great one. We'll reel you in and you'll get hooked to it right away as we're comparing the Pacific side to the American side of World War II.
First topic we'll be talking about is Pearl Harbor. We will be debating which side it affected more. So we asked History Nation, did it affect Japan or the U.S. more?
Well, to give you some background information, in 1941 on the island of Oahu, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Japan was bringing us into the war without even knowing it. They just wanted to own all the Pacific. The U.S. was in their way by holding some of the lands in that area. Japan came early in the morning on December 7th with a fleet of 180 fighter planes. They came and bombed Pearl Harbor. Why Pearl Harbor, you ask yourself? That's a great question. 70% of all the naval forces were in Pearl Harbor. Another major supplier was San Diego, nearby. Now it's time to debate.
Sure is.
I'd have to first say that I believe that the U.S. was affected way more. There are many reasons. First, is that it ended up breaking our neutrality and made the U.S. enter the war. Bet you didn't know that.
Sure did.
There were many casualties, close to over 2,000. Another 1,000 soldiers were wounded. As for the positive sides, it helped the economy and brought us more together as a nation. Everyone fighting and joining in to help in any way that they could to win the war. And another reason was that we became more technologically advanced in weapons and useful supplies.
Well, I actually think Japan was more affected by this.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I do.
Well then.
I'll tell you why. Because their government was divided. Some people wanted to continue fighting, but others wanted peace. They really couldn't find a common goal. In the end, they were eventually destroyed by the U.S. when the U.S. bombed the cities of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And they were completely destroyed. It ruined their country and killed many people. So given these facts, we asked History Nation which side did it affect more. And the nation has voted, and it says 54% think it affected Japan more than the U.S.
That's stunning information there, folks. Just can't believe it. It's such a tragedy. Now our next topic here we have...
Submarine warfare is our second topic, and it proved to be very important in World War II, especially for the German side. The submarines were used as naval blockades and were a classic use of war of attrition. Submarines were a total surprise weapon and had devastating results.
We asked History Nation if submarine warfare was more beneficial or if it didn't really serve any purpose at all. There were many downfalls to the submarine warfare. First was that it was limited in speed, range, and endurance while underwater. Next was, as advances in radar were made, it was easily detected. Lastly was the submarines were constantly in danger of sudden aircraft attacks when they were surfaced.
I think you're wrong in that it's actually more beneficial to the war.
I'd like to disagree with you.
Submarines were the most important vehicle in World War II, I think. As the radar was more advanced and detected them more easily, the Germans improved the technology of submarines and their underwater abilities. Also, the torpedoes were devastating.
Well,
So, we asked History Nation, and 67% say it was more beneficial than not.
I still can't believe that, folks. It's just insane.
I win both times.
I guess so, Cotton. Now, for our next few questions, we'll be sending you over to Bill and Phil.
Once the U.S. entered the war, many men were sent off to the war or entered the draft. This opened opportunity for women to expand their role. They seemed almost as important to the war as the men. In many eyes, they seemed to have one of the most dangerous jobs in the war.
We ask, which was more important, the women's role or the women's rights?
Obviously, the work of the women was more important for them during the war. They had to take over basically all the open jobs from the men that left for war. No matter what the job was, they were glad to take the job over. They had to work in factories and produce weapons, supplies, ammunition for the soldiers that were at war.
Those are some good points, but I'm going to disagree with my friend. It was, of course, the rights they gained after the war. After the war, many of the women gained rights that allowed them to keep the jobs of men. Some were even able to own property and attend school. The most important one was the right to vote. This gave them almost the standards and rights they have today. It began a whole new way of life for them. 70% of History Nation has agreed with me and said that women's roles were more important. Our last and final topic of the day is the bombing of Japan. I would have to say that it was necessary to do. The atomic bomb saved many lives of American soldiers and essentially ended the war between US and Japan. It also began an era of US dominance and showed the Soviet Union that the United States are a force not to be reckoned with.
Well, sir, I would have to disagree with you. It was not right. It ended up killing many innocent people of Japan. It killed many later after due to the radiation, and it also destroyed many other cities, and Japan became an enemy of the United States.
Alas, History Nation has become to an agreement and split the poll 50-50.
Well, that will conclude today's show. Hope to see you here tomorrow at the same time. Knuckleheads.
Kane is in the building.
You're good.
In 1941, on the island of Oahu, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Japan was... In 1941, Japan... when they were surfaced. Okay, come on. Start over.
We asked, which was more important, the women's roles during the war or the rights given to the women? Gosh, that was so